In this video, I'm going to show you the best video settings for the Nikon D3400. This will be a great guide for beginners if you're getting started into shooting video with this camera. So without wasting any time, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's go ahead and flip this switch on. And then what we're going to do is press the LV button right here, which means live view. And when you press that, basically everything will go to the screen versus the viewfinder. And then right here, menu. So right there, it goes right into the menu. And we're going to want to go to this page right here, the shooting menu. So this is where all the settings that we're going to change are going to live, all through this right here. So to start off, let's start right at the very top, reset shooting menu. That's just to reset everything to factory settings. You're not really going to want to do that, especially after we change these. So just ignore that. Image quality, image size, those both have to do with photography and photos. Now we're going to be talking about that in a different video, so stay tuned and subscribe for that. But this is going to be video settings that we're focusing on today, so none of those have anything to do with video, so we're going to skip over those. And then right here, ISO sensitivity settings. Now, if you don't know what ISO is, I definitely look it up and kind of look into it and get an idea of what ISO is and does, but basically, the lower ISO will create a darker image, but a higher quality image. So it's always best to keep that as low as you can to get a cleanest image and just add light externally with using more lights and stuff like that to basically brighten your image up and keep this as low as you can so that it's the cleanest image possible. So definitely just keep it, around 100 to 800, somewhere around there is best, but really just get used to it, kind of mess around with the different ISOs to see what it does to your image. But generally keep that as low as you can for the situation. White balance, I'm going to keep this on auto. It basically controls how warm or cool the image looks, but auto does pretty well until you get more used to shooting with the camera, and when you really want to change more of how an image looks, automatic does really well, and that's honestly the best for almost all situations, especially for starting out. Set picture control. So this right here basically changes how everything looks. So it changes the contrast and the sharpening and saturation. So I actually keep this at neutral. It gives a more cinematic look for video, and it gives you a little bit of room to color correct it and color grade it in post-production. Now, even if you're not going to want to do that, neutral is still a good look. It makes it look a lot more cinematic rather than other things like, monochrome that just makes it look black and white. Most of the time you're not going to want to do that unless you want to obviously record a black and white video. Color space, keep that at sRGB. Don't even worry about Adobe, just keep it right at sRGB. Active delighting, I keep that off. That's just what I do. You can mess around with it and look into it more. I just keep that right on off. All right, so scroll down one, and then noise reduction. I keep that off as well because it can sometimes make the image look, I guess in a sense, blurry and like muddy almost, because it really just tries to get rid of the noise when there's external softwares that can do that way better than the camera can. And a lot of times having a little bit of noise is better than having a just blurry, muddy image. So vignette control, I keep that on normal. It just controls the amount of vignetting, which is kind of darkness around the corners. Auto distortion control, I keep that on off as well. Focus mode right here. So usually when you're shooting a video, you're gonna put it in live view / movie, obviously. That's basically so you can see everything on the screen here. Now I set this to full-time servo autofocus. So what this means is it's always gonna be looking for something to focus on. So usually when you're recording a video, either the camera's gonna be moving or the subject is gonna be moving. And full-time servo autofocus will always be looking to refocus on the subject if it's moving around. Now if you go to single servo autofocus, when you start recording, it'll focus once and then it'll just stay right on that focus. So if you're recording a stationary object and the camera's on a tripod, that'll be good because it won't be trying to find something else when obviously it's already in focus and it's not gonna move. And then manual focus is where you can focus yourself. This is good in a lot of situations, but if you're just starting out, full-time servo autofocus will be really good because it'll always try to stay focused on whatever's moving. Autofocus area mode, right here for live view movie. I keep this on face priority because a lot of times I'm filming myself or another person, and this is gonna focus on their face and just keep their face obviously always in focus. And if I'm not on that, I keep on wide autofocus area because it'll look over the whole image to see what to focus on. So if your subject's in the right corner of the screen here, it'll still focus on them rather than normal autofocus area, it'll be in a certain spot of the screen where if the subject's outside of it, it won't even try to focus on them. So I keep this on face priority most of the time, and if not that, I put it on wide area. Built-in autofocus assist illuminator, I keep that on off. It's basically this like light in the front of the camera that'll turn on to help illuminate stuff, to help brighten it up to autofocus. It's really annoying, and especially in videos it will really make it look bad, so I keep that off all the time. And then metering, I can put this on matrix, and this basically is going to control what area of the screen the camera looks over to find the right exposure. So when you're on like an automatic exposure mode or like automatic ISO or something like that, matrix metering will look over the entire image and find a very good middle ground. So some stuff might be a little overexposed and some stuff might be a little underexposed, but it won't be to any extremes. Now if you do center weight, it'll look at the center of the image and it will keep only what's in the center of the image perfectly exposed, but everything else could be like totally overexposed or underexposed, and it could look bad besides obviously what it's looking at in the middle. I keep this on matrix because it'll look over the whole image and just get a really good middle ground and keep basically everything in good exposure. Flash control, we don't need to worry about that because that is just for photography. Optical VR, so this is vibration reduction. It's Nikon's version of image stabilization. Always keep this on. It'll do really good for smoothing out any jitters when you're recording a video, and it'll make it look a lot better. And then right here, the movie settings, this is where the meat and potatoes are, right in the movie settings here. This is the important stuff. So, first things first, frame size / frame rate. This right here, it might look confusing. There's quite a few options. There's only 2 that you need to worry about. So, first things first, 1080p at 60p. So basically what this is full HD 1080p at 60 frames per second. Now this is good for really smooth footage and for getting slow motion. So 60p, good for slow motion. Just keep that in your mind, 60p slow motion. Now, next up is right here, 1080p at 24p, which is 24 frames a second. This is gonna be what you want for normal motion, any normal video that you're not gonna slow down. 1080p, 24 frames per second. That's what you're gonna wanna keep it at. It gives a good looking, really natural video look. So 1080p, 24 frames a second, keep it on that for almost everything unless you wanna do slow motion, then you can do this one. But this is what you're gonna want for almost everything else. Then movie quality, just keep this at high. It shoots at a higher bit rate and just gives more information and just a higher quality video. Now it will use more space and be a bigger file size, but it's gonna be worth it. You want the highest quality video. And then microphone. This does not have a microphone input, so it's just the built-in microphones, which aren't very good quality, but they will work for, most situations. I keep this on auto, so it'll keep it right around the point where you want it to be at. So if something's too loud, it'll kind of quiet it down and just keep it automatically where it should be at. So just keep that at auto. And if you find that it gets too loud or too quiet, you can go to manual and basically change this around. You want it right around that 12 right there. So if I bring this down, I'm talking right now, bring it up a little bit, down a little bit. So right there is about where you're gonna wanna have it at. But obviously it changed for every situation. And yes, I keep that at auto most of the time. And then wind noise reduction, keep that off. It can distort the audio and just not make it sound very good. So I just keep that off. Then right here, this is important as well. Manual movie settings, keep that on. That means you can control your ISO and your shutter speed and your aperture manually while recording a video, which is what you're gonna wanna do. Now, if you don't know what any of that stuff is, definitely go watch like a camera basics tutorial or something for shooting video, and you can learn about all that. There's a bunch out there, so I'm not really gonna do a whole tutorial on all that stuff. This is mostly just for video settings for this camera. And if you wanna learn how to record videos and the exposure triangle, that stuff, really look into that and learn about that stuff. It's really good to know. And then once you learn that, these settings will work super well. And that is actually the end of the settings right there. That is everything you need to know for shooting the best video with the Nikon D3400. And again, I'm gonna be doing a photography tutorial as well for best photography settings. So definitely stay tuned to subscribe, or if that video is already up, then feel free to go check that out as well. And yeah, that actually wraps up the best video settings for the Nikon D3400. So that wraps it up, the best video settings for the Nikon D3400. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to go down and drop a like and subscribe to my channel. I put a lot of time and effort into these videos, so I'd really appreciate it. And also feel free to check out my other videos that I have on my channel. I make a lot of videos about budget cameras and anything of that nature, so go check those out, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.